Welcome back to another digital painting tutorial where I will be going over how to paint this leaf and the water droplets. This is my channel, Creatively Me with Bree, and you guessed it, I'm Bree. First, let's start off with showing you the dimensions. So we're going to hit the Tool, Actions, Canvas information. Here is where you can title your piece and sign your name. Dimensions are 5,000 pixels by 5,000 pixels at 300 dpi, and this is the color profile, which is second from the top of the default options. Hit done. All right, and so now we have our canvas, and I'm going to drag in this dark green. You can look down below in the descriptions for the hexadecimal color palette. Add a new layer by hitting the plus sign and then go back into colors. Here we're going to grab a slightly lighter bluish gray. In the brush studio under airbrushing, we are going to select the medium hard brush. And we are going to make a horizontal line and some various circles. You don't have to be precise with where you put them. I am also going to do a various size as well as color in the background, all trying to stick within the monochromatic color range. Once I like the way that this looks, I am going to go into the adjustments down to Gaussian blur and blur out the circles so that it's like an out of focus background. Once again, under layers, press the plus sign for a new layer on top of this layer, and I'm going to use a very vibrant light blue along the top, use the Gaussian blur, and then I'm going to use the blending mode add and then take down the opacity so that it's not too vibrant. Now we're going to add a new layer by hitting the plus sign again, and now we're going to choose an orange. Returning to the brush library, go down to organic. The brush that we will be using will be the Snow Gum, but we will be altering it. So make sure that you duplicate the layer. Here's what this brush looks like unaltered. So now slide to the left, duplicate, click, and now we're going to make some adjustments. First, we're going to go into the spacing as well as the jitter. Now I go down to dynamics and I go from around 50% to 30% opacity. Under properties, I increase the maximum size and minimum size. And then I go into color dynamics. And here is where I take down the saturation and lightness. I increase the darkness. And the hue I take down to around 6%. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on brushes, but I know enough to get the job done. And now on a new fresh layer, we are going to get some leaves in there. We don't want it to be too overcrowded. Once I'm satisfied with the way that it looks, I go into adjustments, the hue, saturation, and brightness, and I increase the saturation. Then I use the Gaussian blur to take the leaves out of focus. I go ahead and I add another layer by hitting that plus sign. I'm going to the most orange yellow that I have on my palette, and I'm going into the calligraphy and the monoline brush so that I can create my shape. It's sort of like a sideways teardrop, and that will be our leaf. I end up not liking where it's placed, so I just go ahead and use the transform tool to move it on over. Now I'm going into my brushes, artistic, and selecting the leatherwood brush. I am going to go around the edges to create, a nice textured, uneven edge because that is how leaves are. Don't worry about the fact that it's not perfectly blending in because there is, there's texture and layer to how the leatherwood brush works, but I'm not concerned about it not blending right now. I'm just worried about getting those edges to look a little bit more natural. Now we're going to add a new layer right above the background leaves, but below the main leaf. We're going to pick the really dark brown that's got a lot of yellow in it, and we're going to make sure, oh wait, hold on. First I move it a little more. Okay, just a little bit. Now I go back to that layer with the leatherwood, and now I'm going to draw in the branch. as you guys have seen in my other tutorials, I tend to lean pretty heavy on the leatherwood brush because I think it has a lot to offer in terms of natural textures that we see in nature. So here you'll see me erasing and repainting some of the areas. Both the eraser and my brush are leatherwood. All right, now we're going to add a new layer on top of those back leaves, but behind the branch that we just painted to the main leaf. And we're going to go into inking and the Inka brush. And I'm just making sure the Inka brush there is not changed or amended in any way. And now I'm just brushing in the details that I want for the branches that will be going in the background of this piece. Try not to stress too much about how it looks because we are going to use Gaussian blur to take it out of focus so that it doesn't overwhelm the piece. But remember that branches and trees start thick at the bottom, and as they go up towards the sky, they tend to get thinner. I'm not a fan of the composition, so I end up selecting this side and then moving using the transform tool. And I end up turning this branch as well to sort of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Frame. There we go. Frame. To frame the main leaf. All right, and now that we have that settled, we have the composition we want. We have a lot of this already made. Really, our main focus now is going to be on this leaf. So first, we're going to add a new layer on top, and we're going to make it a clipping mask. And I select the colors that are already in my palette, but decide to make it just a touch brighter. I'm going to return to the Airbrush Medium Hard Blend to work in, and now I'm just going to add in some colors to map out the overall color that will be the base of the leaf. I really want there to be like a warm glow, so I'm adding that sort of orangey brown color, a little bit of green, because oftentimes we'll see a little bit of green mixed into those leaves. Now I'm just smudging using the airbrushing brush, and I still continue to work this color up. So yes, we did lose some of the colors we just painted, so we're just going to keep working them in and then smudging them out or blending them, however you want to use the word for that smudge tool. I like to say blend. Now I'm putting in a really vibrant yellow, still has quite a bit of orange in it, and smudging it out. Using the base color, again, you can hand pick whatever colors you want, but using the base color that I initially used to make this leaf, I'm now painting in a little bit of the structure of the stem of the leaf, just so we can start to see a little bit more shape and so the leaf doesn't look quite so flat. Now I'm sampling some of the brighter color and painting that into the darker side. I think it helps it create sort of a glowing effect. Then I'm smudging the colors in or blending the colors in. I grab a rather dark brown and I'm going around the edges. Because the edges of the leaf tend to be the first part of the leaf that starts to sort of break down or decompose. And so, again, yes, some of it gets lost as it's smudged, but we're going to paint more of that in. Add in some more color back in, slowly working it into the painting, and also slowly working it out of the painting. All right, now we're going to add a new layer on the very top and also make that a clipping mask. From here, we're going into the reddish brown, and we're going to go down to the spray painting brushes, and we're going to select the flex, and we just want to splatter it on there. We don't want it to be overwhelming, but we do want it to give the illusion of the texture of the leaf starting to break down and decompose with the season. And then here I'm using the splatter brush under spray paints to add just a little bit of texture to those edges. Adding another new layer and making it a clipping mask. I'm going in with that red-brown color, and I am going to select the hard airbrush, making it rather small, and also taking the opacity down so that I can start to draw in the spine and like the veins of the leaf. Going back into our layers, we're going to add a new layer and also make that a clipping mask. Now we're going to pick a very light yellow, make it even more saturated, but move it closer to the green so it's an even more vibrant yellow than it was before. Before it was more of a orange yellow. This is more of a yellow yellow. It's more cool than it is a warm tone. And I'm just trying to add just a bit more highlight and trying to create a sense of lighting coming through the leaf itself. Once I have my colors where I want, I take the smudge tool and move it around to soften it up. I'm going around the edges and where the veins would likely collect some light. On this same layer, I am using a reddish color that we used before, and I'm smudging it in. This layer is beneath the spots that we did to create the flicks of paint that hopefully look more like an aging leaf. Here you can see I'm making some adjustments to the background. You don't have to do that if you like the way it looks. That was just a personal preference. I just thought there needs to be a little bit more brightness in the background, so I made some additional lighter colors, blurred it using the Gaussian blur and using screen as the blending mode to make it nice and bright. And then I go to the background leaves and I use the selection tool, the freehand, and move over the leaves that kind of distract from the main leaf that overlap with the colors. And I do it on the other side as well right here. And move them over as well. It takes me a moment to figure out where I want them to be. I just couldn't figure out like the composition that I liked. It really takes me a moment. Sorry, guys. All right, on a new layer, we're going to choose this very darkish green-blue colors. That's what I'm looking for, one of the colors from the background. And I'm going to choose the hard airbrush. And here, I do have the opacity down and the size down as well so that I can create the shape of my water droplets. You can get creative where you put your water droplets, but this is where I decided I wanted them. All right, so now I'm going to go back into the airbrush with the eraser and just clean up my lines a little bit. I also use the freehand tool to resize one by using freeform to squish just a little bit, and then also I end up reselecting it because I feel like it's a little too turned inward. I need a little bit more vertically up and down. And now I go in, finish the touch-ups, and then I grab the background color that is most overlapping this teardrop, and I'm painting it into the bottom here. So I'm not a teardrop expert. I'm not like, I don't typically study rain this closely or water. However, I decided to try and pick only colors that are already present, right? The way that water would reflect only colors that are present. So it's picking up on nearby colors. So the background being such a bright dominant color. So that is what I chose to go here. I also know that water droplets have dark edges majority of the time. So I wanted to make sure we had our dark edge established. Now we're going in with a reddish brown because there is a lot of orange and browns in this, and I wanted there to be that color pulled into the lighting that is, caught within the water droplets. Now I'm going to select the very vibrant blue that does show up in the background. I decided the most vibrant would be probably the most fun color to have picked up in this water droplet. So I decided to go with that. And then for the final touches, we are going to select white, just white, no blue, just white. And we're going to use that as the ultra highlight. All right, we're almost there, guys, because the water droplets are by far one of the harder parts. Now I'm putting the branch that is attached to this tree leaf on alpha lock, and I'm just adding some additional colors to it because it's unlikely that branch would be a one-dimensional color. I'm building up the colors, highlighting the edges where the sunlight would hit. Do end up adding back in just a little bit more of that really dark brown to the underside just to make sure we don't lose some of that shadow. I take it off alpha lock by clicking and unselecting the alpha lock, or deselecting, sorry. Then I choose really bright light orange, cream orange, not really sure. That's just what I'm going to call it. And I now use it to paint slightly outside the lines to add an additional layer of highlight. All right, I add another new layer, and I'm going to grab the very vibrant yellow and make it even brighter if I can. And I'm going to go right along this edge. It's not a clipping mask, it's a normal new layer, unencumbered by any settings, so I can add this extra crisp edge of additional yellow. I don't know that I love what I did here, but I did it, and you guys are going to see it. So here it is. I chose a really vibrant blue, one of the colors from the background, and I went around the edge because I really wanted this leaf to stand out from the background, and I just didn't feel like it was standing out enough. So I really wanted this vibrant blue to sort of highlight the area. Um, but I think I took it a little too low into the white there that you see, but it's fine. It's cool. Live and you learn, right? All right, now we're into the final touches. I wanted to make the spine of this leaf a little bit more prominent, so I do add some highlights, but I'm also going to add some shadows. So I make sure I'm on the right layer, and then I add in my colors. I also end up smoothing this little wrinkle in the leaf out a bit. It just wasn't working. I thought that it was distracting. Adding a new layer there. It's underneath the main veins that run through the spine of the leaf. And now I'm adding in this. Bear with me, I promise. It looks better soon. Trust the process. I know I had to. Now I'm just smoothing out some of those harder edges. I'm just trying to create some shadows, some lines in these leaves. I also take the opacity down just a touch, maybe more than a touch, but you know what I mean. Get some of the red in there, more reddish orange brown color. Start creating some more lines in this leaf, and then I end up smudging it. I feel like the leaf's starting to look pretty good. And then I do lower the opacity down to around 75% for the background leaves. I just felt like they were a little too distracting. And then here I end up choosing like a whitish green and go to luminance under the brush library. And I selected the brush, what is it called? Bokeh light? Bokeh. You guys tell me. And then I find that I like, I think overlay. Yeah, I liked overlay. And then I just do a little bit of Gaussian blur. And look at that. Now our leaf is done. And look at this water droplet. I'm so proud of it. Now, if you want, you can absolutely continue working on this piece and render it in more detail. Make sure that you are using photo references to help so that you get the textures just right. With that being said, thank you so much for your support and for watching this video. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next tutorial. Okay, bye.